the fear of making a mistake can paralyze parents and keep them from having moments of true connection with their kids.
Hi, this is Monica Packer, and you're listening to About Progress, where we are about progress made practical. Have you ever been judged as a parent? Without even hearing your answer, I know it is yes, because all parents get judged at one point or another, whether it's from a well-meaning family member, a stranger at the grocery store, or even a friend at church. To be a parent means you will be judged. But what if that judging includes you being critical of yourself? Maybe this is a mix of internalized criticism and internalized societal expectations. But being a mom is made more complicated when the way we see and talk to ourselves is constantly under our own microscope. As if it's better if we criticize our own messy passes of parenting before someone else can. I find this is especially true when you have neurodiverse children, including ADHD. You know, I have several myself. If you're in that boat, of course, you know you love your child, your children, more than anything else. And when they have special needs like ADHD, you take on additional responsibilities to mold, to support, and to advocate for them. But because we live in an imperfect world with imperfect systems, and also because we are humans who have never done this before, we make mistakes. And when your child has special needs, each mistake can feel like the mistake that will define not just your parenting, but their lives. Today, I want to offer some hope for parents of ADHD children specifically. You don't have to be perfect to parent well. I invited Doctors Mallory and Mallory from the Childhood Collective to talk about the myth of perfect parenting, what it really means to be a good parent to an ADHD child, and how giving yourself grace might be the best thing you do for your child and yourself. Whether or not you have a child with ADHD, if you've ever worried that your mistakes mean you're failing, this one's for you. Doctors Mallory and Mallory are both child psychologists who, alongside Katie, a speech-language pathologist, run the Childhood Collective, an education platform to support parents of children with ADHD. After working with families over a combined total of 40 years, they created the Childhood Collective to provide simple, science-backed strategies to help you find joy and confidence in parenting your child with ADHD. With their courses and podcasts, Shining with ADHD, parents are empowered to help their child thrive. And just a quick note, in this interview, I spoke to Lori and Mallory specifically. That episode is coming up after a quick break for our sponsors. Have you seen this social media series called Empties, where people share about which beauty products they have used in their entirety, leaving the containers empty? Well, one of my most recent empties is the Tighten and Lift Neck Cream by Go Pure Beauty. We spend so much time and energy investing on good skincare for our face. But what about the neck? If you're like me and you basically forgot about your neck for forever, then I highly recommend the Tighten and Lift Neck Cream. I have used it each morning and night until my container is completely empty, and my neck has felt softer and visibly hydrated, enough so that I'm going to be using my own code to get my replacement jar. Here's the thing, the skin on your neck is thinner, more delicate, and less oily than the skin on your face, which means it needs extra love. Go Pure's Firming Complex targets the unique concerns of the neck while nourishing and strengthening your skin for a more lifted, youthful look. Go Pure Beauty is not just for the face, their whole line of products are cruelty-free, paraben-free, and sulfate-free, so you know you're giving your skin clean, effective care without the harsh chemicals or compromises. With over 1 million jars sold, this beauty secret is no longer a secret. For a limited time, our listeners get 25% off Go Pure with code PROGRESS at checkout. Just head to gopurebeauty.com, use code PROGRESS, and you're all set. And after you buy, do us a favor. When they ask where you heard about Go Pure, tell them it was from our show. I've been talking about it all summer, but the time is soon approaching. for my sign up for my tour to Rome, Italy. If you haven't heard, I'm so honored to be hosting a female foodie signature tour to Rome for just the About Progress community in the fall of 2026. But tickets go on sale this September 9th to a wait list only. Speaking of the wait list, it is really important you get on there. Not only do female foodie tours sell out in minutes, the wait list is going to get exclusive previews and content and other features throughout August. From a preview of our dinner plans and what we're going to be doing in Italy to a Q&A call with Brooke Elison, the founder of Female Foodie. You need to get on the waitlist for those things and to get access to signing up for the tour on September 9th. You can do so by going to aboutprogress.com/Italy. I cannot wait to explore the beauties of Italy and to give you time to and for yourself in this very special way next year, but again, going on sale this fall. Go to aboutprogress.com/Italy. Doctors Mallory and Lori from the Childhood Collective, welcome to About Progress.
We're so happy to be here. Thank you for having us.
I've just loved your show so much. It's been an invaluable resource to me as a mom with several kids with ADHD, as well as other neurodiversities. And today we're here to talk about parenting, specifically for those who have ADHD children. And while we know you're professionals, I wanted to level at the beginning that you're also parents. So can you just tell us, do you have ADHD kids in your home?
Yeah, well, we all have ADHD in our homes. Some of us are raising kids with ADHD, some of us too. Some of us have ADHD ourselves. Some of us have partners who have ADHD. So I'd say it's safe to say that we're living it.
Yes.
So I remember soon after my third child was diagnosed with ADHD. Lo and behold, it was a different form than my other two.
Yeah.
And I was so overwhelmed by trying to learn this particular child's version of it and how to help them more specifically. I just felt inundated with both the desire, but also the pressure to do so perfectly. So whether it's their first child or they have multiple children like this, I wanted to begin with the fact that it can feel even more layered as a parent with a child with ADHD to be a perfect parent so that you can support them. So how do you feel like parents in that particular position fall for this lie that they have to be perfect in order to serve their ADHD child?
Oh gosh, I feel like a lot of it starts with kind of the comparison game, where you see your friends and family parenting their kids in a certain way, and you want to do that too. And you quickly learn that that's not working for your kid. That's not working for your family. But then you start putting the shoulds on yourself, right? I should. Why isn't that working for me? I should be able to do it. They make it seem easy. So a lot of it starts, I feel like, just seeing other people parenting in a certain way. And so you feel like you should be able to do that, but you quickly learn that's not working.
Yeah.
Not serving your family.
And then I think what happens from there is feeling like, well, I'm not doing it right because my child responds disrespectfully a lot, or my child says no all the time, and they place that on themselves. Well, that's because I'm not doing it perfectly or not doing it the right way. Like I look on social media and I think one of the hard things about social media these days is the wonderful thing is there's so much information and so many tips and things like that. But there's a lot of scripts, like use this script in this situation, right? Use these words. And you're sitting there thinking, well, okay, now there is a right way to do it, right? There's a right way to say it. There's a right way to handle the situation. And if I don't do it the right way, then I'm not perfect. Like I do think it can feed into that perfectionism that a lot of parents feel. And then it's like when those things don't work, well, that's my fault because I'm not doing it right. And there's a right way and I'm not doing it right.
Gosh, yeah. And add that to, the many myths that are out there about ADHD. One of them being that ADHD is caused by bad parenting, that it's not really ADHD. It's just the way you're parenting. And if you just parented differently, your child wouldn't have ADHD or that you could cure ADHD. So I feel like that adds on to that guilt too.
Yeah. I just was talking about a New York Times article on our Instagram and kind of responding to it because there was a lot of stuff in there about medication being problematic and all of these things. And we really speak to, again, on our account, like the science of ADHD and what is helpful, and medication being one of those treatments that is helpful. And so many parents were like, thank you for speaking out about this because I felt so much guilt, like I'm doing it wrong. I'm making things like I'm doing things to make my life easier, right? And so I'm doing it wrong, even though the medication was helping their child like tremendously. They were still feeling like I'm getting this message from the world and the New York Times and doctors who are interviewed in here that I'm doing something wrong. There's just lots of misinformation out there, and again from reputable people sometimes that I've done something wrong and placing that shame and guilt on parents.
Parenting is a humbling experience, period. But when you have an ADHD child, it can often feel like you are trying to insert that square peg into the round hole because everyone's saying this is what parenting looks like. And when you don't fit that mold, and neither does your child, it can create this internalized shame about not just who you are as a parent, but who you are. So starting with Lori, I mean, maybe you can speak more to what does a good parent look like for an ADHD child, and how it's not about those prescriptions of one size fits all. It's not a round hole is going to work for every single child. And I'm speaking more specifically to ADHD because, as I alluded to earlier, there's so many different subsets. Like, so even the advice that we can get, it may be directed to a certain type of ADHD. So
Yes,
what actually
exactly.
qualifies someone as a good parent to an ADHD child?
I think, again, if you're listening to this podcast, you've sought it out and you're kind of saying, "Hey, I need help and strategies." Right?
Yeah.
And I think we try and tell parents who are in our community, like, you are a good parent because you're trying. You're trying to understand your child at the very, very least, which, to be honest, is like one of the most effective things that we can do when we're parenting kids with ADHD is try to understand ADHD and your child's brain. Being a good parent is trying different things. It's trying to understand. It's understanding that it isn't one size fits all. Like there's no one script and no certain words that are going to work for your specific child. And if you have multiple kids, you've probably found this out. Like you could say one thing to one kid that could calm them down, and you could say that same thing to your ADHD child, and that could escalate them significantly. So part of it is just kind of trial and error and figuring out what works best for your kids, and knowing that in that trial and error, there are going to be things that don't work, and that's okay. And for us to grow as parents, we have to make mistakes ourselves. And the problem becomes when we become paralyzed with fear of making a mistake, and then we stop going on the play date because, oh my gosh, I'm going to be judged, or my kid's going to slap the other kid's butt, or like
Yeah.
all of these things are going to happen, and I'm going to be judged, so I'm just not going to do it anymore. And so then my child doesn't have opportunities to grow anymore, and I don't have any opportunities to grow anymore as a parent or figure out what works for them.
So I'm hearing you say to be a good parent, especially to those with ADHD, you need to have the desire and you need to try. But I didn't hear you say you need to do it all perfectly. In fact, you were
No.
saying the opposite. You need to make space for mistakes. So, Mallory, how have you seen that fear of making mistakes interfere with actually being what we have qualified as a good parent? How do you see people maybe misdirecting their efforts because of that fear?
Oh gosh. I feel like it the fear of making a mistake can paralyze parents and keep them from having moments of true connection with their kids. Let me give you an example. So, early on in just being in the parenting space in social media, I noticed that something that a lot of parenting accounts were posting about was about praising your kids, right? Telling your kid when they've done something you like or they've done a good job. And there's a lot of lines of thought out there about praise. Some people are saying never praise your kids because it will damage their internal motivation. And
Don't
we
say
know
good job.
Don't say good job.
That's another one. Don't say good job. You need to be specific in your praise and tell them, if you're going to praise, you need to be specific in it. Tell them exactly what you like. And yes, like the research shows that praise is a great way to grow skills and improve your child's challenging behaviors, and that the more specific you are, the better. That's true. But I feel like it was keeping parents from praising their kids if they're like, rather than, because we're saying never say good job. Parents are missing an opportunity to connect with their kids and have a positive moment because they're scared they're going to praise wrong. So instead of praising wrong, they don't praise at all. And then they've kind of lost this moment of genuine and true connection with their child because they're scared they're going to do it wrong. So they just don't do it at all. And so I don't want parents to fear doing it wrong at the expense of, again, having those moments of true connection and just being there with your child.
That's an excellent example. I feel like I have felt that too when that advice was so prominent. I felt like the stopping myself and being like, no, you're going to say it wrong. Like, don't do that. But I also have felt that the reverse side where it's like and again, positive reinforcement, research back, it's going to help a lot. I knew that as a teacher too. But at the same time, I literally saw people giving advice to ignore a kid hitting another kid. Just ignore the bad behavior. Don't water the weeds. And it's like, well, that doesn't work either. So it's those extremes. Do you have anything to add to that, Lori, about what mistakes you see parents making because they're trying not to make mistakes?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, it's like I'm paralyzed with fear in a situation. And I think that's a great example of like my child hits another child and like I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't want to look like a bad parent, or I don't even know what to do. So I freeze, fight, flight, or freeze. And I just freeze. And then as a result, my child is like not getting the feedback that they need. Like kids with ADHD need very clear feedback, positive and corrective, to know like this is okay, this is not, and they need consequences. And so then we're not doing those things that could be helpful because we're afraid of getting it wrong. We're afraid of correcting in the wrong way and causing some sort of damage to our kids or whatever. And I think, again, there's just a lot out there of like, don't praise your child when they come out in a pretty princess dress and say, you look beautiful. It's like, well, I want to say that. Like, that's natural for me as a parent. But there's lots of feedback of like, well, that's going to cause them to just want more praise for that later on. And it gets you in your head of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to damage my child. I'm doing something wrong. As opposed to kind of looking at big picture, like our kids are actually really resilient and they have very resilient brains. And again, know that you're trying. And sometimes when we're trying, we do mess up or make a mistake or whatever. And we can fix that. Like we can go back and course correct and we can apologize and we can do those things to help our kids, again, understand that we make mistakes too. And it's normal and it's human and that's okay.
I want to get back to that repair work especially. But first, you talked about fight, flight, or freeze and how, oftentimes we go to the freeze mode. But I also see a lot of the fighting in me where I'm just like, I have to know everything and I have to do everything right. And I see this in other women too, where, where you're just feeling like you're always on edge, trying to watch for something, intercede, fix something, start a new routine or a chart. What would you say to the overly anxious mom who is out of fear of making mistakes, trying to do everything all the time at the expense of her own self-care, at the expense of her relationship with her child?
I think I can relate to this mom. And I think for me, it came with the mindset shift of embracing the fact that I'm learning along with my child. And I am learning how to parent my child as I learn more about them and what they need. And embracing the fact that I'm not going to do it right every time. I'm not going to have all the answers. The way I do it over time might shift as I learn more about my child and what works for them. So kind of embracing the fact that I'm a learner in this process too. I'm learning alongside my child.
I can think of no better model for them because
Yeah.
regardless of where they are with ADHD and what form it looks like and how it manifests, is these kids make mistakes and they can internalize them just like we do as parents. They internalize the shame that there's something wrong with them. So, what better way to help them learn how to better deal with that in ways that aren't about shaming themselves to model it as a parent? That we make mistakes here, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And speaking to that, Laura, you brought up repair work earlier, and I think it's reflective of, some of the research that has come out of the Gottman Institute about how we don't have to get it all right all the time as parents. And
No.
repair work is probably the most important part of parenting.
Yeah.
So how can people better use that in the moment when you make mistakes as a parent?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, when we teach our kids, and I know from when my kids were very young that I said a lot about, like, it's okay to make mistakes. Mistakes are great. Like, I have an older child that is very much a perfectionist like her mom. And so that was a message that we'd have to say a lot. But then sometimes my actions wouldn't reflect that, where she would make a mistake and I would be very hard on her and very frustrated and very upset. And I think one of the best ways we can teach our kids is through modeling and repair, and apologizing when you have made a mistake does a lot of things. But the first thing it does is it models for our kids, one, that it's okay to make mistakes, that we make mistakes as parent, and it's expected that we will make mistakes. That it takes away the shame that our kids feel when they make mistakes too, that it's okay. Like, they don't have to be really defensive because we all do that. And it takes away the shame that they might feel in those moments that they did something wrong. Well, maybe they did do something wrong, but we did too, and our response was wrong. And how we handled that was wrong. What I said to you was wrong. And so again, it gives an opportunity to connect with our kids too, and help them understand, hey, I did this wrong, and I wished I had used this strategy, because if I had used this strategy, if I had taken some deep breaths, I think I would have said something a little bit different, right? And again, we're modeling for our kids how to do that. And I don't know about you, but I think apologizing is one of the most important skills that any of us can teach our kids and to have a healthy relationship later on in life. Taking responsibility and modeling how to take responsibility is so important in having a healthy relationship and moving on from hard situations. And I know just in my marriage, like, when I started to do that sooner and earlier when we were having fights, like, the better our relationship became, because you're going to fight. Like, if you expect that you're not going to fight or have disagreements in your marriage or with your kids, like, those things will happen. They just will. And you're going to say stuff that you wish you didn't say. Like, all of us are going to do that. The question is, do we take responsibility for that? And do we own up with that? And that can really relieve the other person of feeling like, I did this and this is my fault, right?
We mistakenly believe that a good mom equates a martyr mom. But all this does is create worn out moms who find more resentment than fulfillment in motherhood. It is good to want more. Moms who have more in their lives have more to give from, more energy, more fun, more love, because they are more themselves. If this is appealing to you, I want to invite you to my first inaugural More for Moms conference. It's a free 7-day conference I'm hosting for moms who are ready for more in their lives, more in their happiness, habits, health, home, and hobbies. And you guys are getting the first dibs. you can go to aboutprogress.com/more-for-moms to check out what I have been working on for several months, including the 25 high-caliber speakers that we are hosting for this 7-day event. Each world-class speaker will teach deep and practical ways for mothers to access more fulfillment, joy, and progress in their lives. And this shift matters not only because it helps enrich their families, but because each woman is a person in her own right and worthy of more. It's time for you to lean into more. Go to aboutprogress.com/more-for-moms. I cannot wait to have you part of the conference. Yeah, you really broke down the how to that, but more so, I think the why. That's an opportunity for more connection, as well as teaching, even by doing, the teaching of accountability and responsibility and humility and how to interact with mistakes. So there's so much more to that repair work and owning our mistakes. And it goes back to something we said earlier. You have to expect that you're going to make mistakes. I think that one of the hardest parts of it, though, is the guilt. When I see recovering perfectionists, with which I am one of the ways we can engage with mistakes is that we almost beat ourselves up over it. Like we just are so hard on ourselves. We over apologize, we overcompensate. But the funny thing is I see a lot of people avoid the guilt by avoiding ownership, by avoiding taking responsibility. So, Mallory, what would you say are some good tips to better and helpfully navigating the guilt that can come when you make a mistake as a parent?
Just like when we're giving parents advice on how to parent their kids, one of the things we say is like, your child's made a mistake. Like, give them the opportunity to repair and move on. Like, clean slate. We're not holding grudges. We're not upset with what our child did earlier. Give yourself that same grace. Extend to yourself that same understanding that it's okay to make mistakes and do things you didn't like, but that you can forgive yourself and you can give yourself kind of a clean slate, a blank slate moving forward. Learn from it and move on. Don't hold that guilt of having made that mistake, having been imperfect. Just as we say, give your kids that blank slate, that fresh start, no grudges held. Give yourself that too.
Yeah, my brother and his wife, they don't have kids. But I got this from them that when they'd have an argument and they'd talk about it, they would just both say fresh start. And it
Love
meant
that.
that we don't go back to this. We don't hold it against each other. We don't bring it up later. Like, we are starting over. And we use that all the time. I use that all the time in my family, even yesterday. Like, we were all kind of just arguing in the car about stuff. And it was just like, pause. Okay, we need to just start over. Like, our family needs to start over. And like, all of us saying that word and just like starting over gives us an opportunity. Just like, we're forgetting everything that just happened and we're moving forward. We're letting go. So sometimes like announcing that moment and saying we're starting over, fresh start, is a great way to do that.
That's such great advice from both of you. I think one thing I would add to that is I think why the guilt feels so difficult is because you are mistaking the mistake as who you are instead of
Mhm.
realizing I'm a good parent and I made
Mhm.
a not great choice. Or I really messed that up, or I just made a little mistake. So to remember at the heart of it, if we're going back to the qualifiers of what makes a good parent, do you have the desire? Are you trying? Are you working to connect with your child? Then you are a good parent and you made a mistake. So it's not a misplacement of who you are. I wanted to speak a little bit to some examples of this because I know you know this both professionally and also personally. You probably have some examples of maybe how you handled this in the past and you do differently now, or the way you've seen clients handle their mistakes as a parent, how to make that shift from having to be perfect to being a good parent, how to actually makes you a better parent. Mallory, do you mind sharing first?
Sure. So let's see. Thinking back to a personal example, I'd say this was a few years ago, but it was a phase of life where things felt challenging. Definitely did not feel like a perfect parent. Was maybe skipping play dates, like Lori mentioned, because I was worried they were going to go sideways, weren't going to go great. But we're at the park, and I noticed one of my kids dumping sand on someone's head. And I set the limit. That's not okay. Someone, could get sand in their eyes. It's not safe. And chooses to not respect the limit and keeps going. So I've set the limit. I've said, if sand gets dumped again, we have to leave the park. Chooses to dump sand again. So now it's time to leave the park. I need to hold that limit, right? Complete meltdown.
Yeah.
And you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I feel this pressure a lot. As a child psychologist, I feel like my friends are looking to me to like how to handle these challenging parenting moments. So I feel like maybe the pressure is even bigger because you want to handle it perfectly. All eyes are on me. I'm trying to handle this mega meltdown, get my kid out of the park for not following the limit I set. And I feel like I'm barely holding it together.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm carrying him out of the park, and he rips out a huge chunk of my hair. And I'm just telling myself, I like literally see the chunk of hair fall to the sidewalk. I'm like, keep it cool,
my
keep it cool.
goodness.
Get him to the car, buckle him into the car seat. Luckily, still at an age where he can't unbuckle himself, so he's safe in there. And drive home, and I just have tears. I'm sad. I didn't feel like I handled that great. I felt like it shouldn't have gotten to the point of a meltdown. What could I have done sooner to avoid that? Now, retrospectively, I look back and kind of with the feedback from my friends, even though this was years ago, they'll still talk about this. They'll say like, Mallory, I'll never forget that day at the park. And I'm like, me either. But they're like, you stayed so calm. Even when he was kind of melting down, he pulled that chunk of hair out. And so, I beat myself up for a long time about how I handled that. And, the perfectionists go back and they kind of ruminate on what happened and how you could have done it differently and why you did it that way and what was everyone else thinking. But then the outsider's perspective, the feedback I eventually got was, wow, you like handled that really well. Like you stayed so calm. I don't know if I could have ever stayed that calm when my kid pulled my hair. So that was a learning opportunity for me that, inside I'm beating myself up. I'm feeling like I could have handled that so much better. That was imperfect parenting. But then my friends swoop in with the feedback of like, you handled that so well. Wow. Like you kept your cool. I can't believe you kept your cool when faced with that. So it was this realization of I'm very hard on myself, but the outsider's point of view is that I'm actually doing okay.
So glad you had that objective, bystanders, I guess, or the friends in your life to point out how you were being too harsh on yourself. I think we all need that.
Yeah.
What about you,
Absolutely.
Lori?
Yeah, my example is maybe the opposite, where
Which
I didn't think
so appreciate too. Yeah.
which I didn't think I was being really harsh. And then my husband's like, you're really harsh. This was just a few days ago and I could think of a million examples, but my daughter is just like, she's at the age where she's getting attitude and no, and I don't want to do it. And we were just like in this arguing match over her not wanting to follow through on go playing with the dog, which is like a chore that she has to do. And I'm raising my voice. I'm getting really frustrated. I'm getting really angry. And we're just arguing back and forth. Right. And she storms off. And my husband is like, you are really hard on her. Like, you're really raising your voice. That was not okay.
Yeah.
And it was like a moment for me, the opposite of like, I didn't even think I was like raising my voice. Right. And I think sometimes like we don't recognize our tones with our kids sometimes, or how we are escalating. Like we can't recognize it in ourselves. And I started like reflecting back on that. I was like, oh, wow, he's totally right. And this is not how I should handled it, but I was really stressed. Like I was feeling very stressed and just in that mode, and I like let my emotions completely take over rather than like staying calm in that moment. And again, like I had to go back into my daughter's room and she wanted nothing to do with me, was sobbing, like, and what she really said was like, you're angry at me. Like that was what she was really upset about, was that I've done something wrong and you're angry at me. And that feels very, very hard. And that's where, again, I had to apologize to her and take ownership of that, which relieved the shame of like, it's all about her, because it's not all about her. It was very much a lot about me and how I handled that moment. And it could have gone very differently had I been able to just remain calm and follow through on a boundary versus getting into this kind of arguing match, which I think many of the families in our community can probably relate to.
What I love so much about both of your stories is that you are professionals. So to hear, oh, someone who has the literal training and helps people do this better, they make mistakes, that is so validating. And it also is hope-giving. And it goes back to the heart of what we're here today for, to remind us that you don't have to be a perfect parent to be a good one, to be one of the very best parents, in fact. And I want to end with a little bit more of that hope for them. Just some final thoughts that you may have for someone who's still stuck thinking, if I just settle for good, then I'm not going to be good enough for my kids. How is the opposite actually true? If you make space for being human but being a good parent, how does that actually ultimately make you a better one? What would you say?
I mean, I think with the families that I work with, and I do lots of evaluations for ADHD, and a lot of times there's recommendations at the end of that. And a lot of times parents are like, well, I have to do all of these things. Like I need to have them in occupational therapy, and I need to do behavior therapy, and I need to do this, that, and the other. And there's like 4 things. And I think many times when parents can't do all of those things because they have 4 other children, and they're living lives and they have kids in sports, they feel like I'm not doing enough, and it's going to impact their progress or who they are later on. And I think, I would say to those families, like, you cannot do it all. You just can't. And you have to take it one small step at a time. And that might just mean doing one thing right now. It might just mean going to the school and trying to get some supports in place. And that's all you do right now. That's okay. And that's great, actually. I think taking one thing at a time is honestly a lot of times better for our kids too, because they feel overwhelmed and overly stressed. And we are raising whole kids. We are raising kids who need to be playing, who need to be doing fun things, not to be in therapy every single day. And just knowing like you don't need to do it all to be a good parent. Taking very small steps is much better than trying to do it all at once and stressing everyone out in the family.
That gave me a giant exhale. Thank you. It's something I still worry about all the time.
Oh, I'm sure.
The truth is you never do enough, right? You can never,
Yeah.
you'll never do enough. That's really the truth. Mallory, what would you say? Final thoughts.
Yeah, I'd say if I could just offer this mindset shift to parents, it's that being an imperfect parent is a gift to your child. It's showing your child that even the grown-up that they idolize the most in the world messes up, makes mistakes, and that there's still a path forward from that. It doesn't make you a bad person. It's not attached to your worth. So being an imperfect parent is actually a gift to your child.
Thanks for making me tear up for the first time ever on the podcast. My audience knows I'm a robot who never cries. So if I tear up, it's like full on weeping for someone else.
Oh.
Wow. Thank you, both of you. I didn't mean this to be for me, but it was. And so I know because of that, it's going to help so many parents who are listening to this episode. I always like to end with one final question. But before we do that, where should they go if they want to learn more from you?
We also have a podcast. So if you are listening to this podcast, our podcast is called Shining with ADHD. We are also very active on Instagram at The Childhood Collective. And then we have a website, thechildhoodcollective.com, where you can get lots of free resources and things like that. And we do have a free guide we can give you, 6 Keys to Parenting a Happy and Independent Child with ADHD, which just lots of tips and practical resources and information on small changes and small shifts you can make every day, that the science has shown is really helpful for kids with ADHD.
Fantastic. Thank you. We'll make sure to link to those things in the show notes. The final question we always end with is, what is one small way listeners can take action on what they learned today? And this is truly just a teeny tiny little thing that they can do.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say one thing that we've talked about a lot is just today. And today you will make a mistake, right? Like you will make a mistake in your parenting. I guarantee it. And you can practice apologizing to your child when you do, and practice taking responsibility for that and modeling that it's okay to make mistakes and that's how you can repair your relationship when you do. So when you make not if you make a mistake, but when you make a mistake today, which I know you will, you can practice this.
Fantastic. Mallory and Lori, I'm so again appreciative of your both wisdom, but also your vulnerability. I know that's such a catchword, but there's really no other way to say that. Thank you for being willing to share the hard today as well as the good. It's just given me that exhale, like I said, I needed, and I know it will for so many other women. So I appreciate you and your time.
Yeah, we're so glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica.
You guys did so well. It's been a long time since I've recorded more than one. I hope this episode gave you the hug and kick in the pants you need to grow. Before I share the progress pointers, know that I was on Shining with ADHD. That's Lori, Mallory, and their other partner, Katie's podcast that has become an indispensable resource for me as a mom with several children who have ADHD. In it, we talked about the importance of self-care, how it's not selfish, and the literal how-to make it happen, even as a very busy mom of kids who demand more than the norm. I've linked to it in the show notes so you can take a listen to that interview and make sure you follow them because they have such a great podcast. Let's now share the progress pointers. These are the notes I took so you don't have to. And those of my newsletter get them in a graphic form each week. You can sign up at aboutprogress.com/newsletter. And the progress pointers I share here are the simplified version of what you will get in the newsletter. Number 1, perfection is not the goal of parenting. Connection is. Number 2, mistakes are part of the parenting process. Number 3, fear of getting parenting wrong often leads to doing nothing at all. Number 4, you can't do it all as a parent, so prioritize the small steps you can. And number 5, being an imperfect parent is a gift. Your Do Something challenge for this week is to apologize and repair with your child when you make a mistake. If you do that, I would love to hear about it. You can email me at hello@aboutprogress.com or message me on Instagram at aboutprogress. We have such big things coming in September. Make sure you sign up for the More for Moms conference. It is going to really change so much for so many women. And I have to tell you, it is becoming the collection of the best interviews I've ever experienced from my side of the screen and has changed already so much for me. You can sign up at aboutprogress.com/moreformoms. This podcast is listener supported. Members of the Supporters Club make my work with About Progress free and available to all, and they get access to 3 levels of exclusive benefits from more time to more content with me, including my private premium podcast, More Personal. You can support the show by signing up at aboutprogress.com/support. And you can always support the show for free. The best thing you can do right now is share the show with a friend. So copy the URL of this episode and send it to a friend. Thank you so much for listening. Now go and do something with what you learned today. As if we criticize our messy, as if we criticize our messy, as if we criticize our own messy goes at parenting before someone else can.